Can you even truly know yourself without being single for an extended amount of time in your adult life? Welcome, my single friend. This is the very first episode of All About Being Single. I'm Wioleta, your host, and I'm super excited to have you listen. Whether you are single by choice, by consequence of your actions, or by pure luck or divine timing, whatever it is that you want to call it, whatever the reason is you think that you are single right now, you will resonate with this podcast, I hope, because I will explore all the good and all the bad about being single. Yes, I said that. All the good and the bad, because it's not just all good and it's not just all bad, honestly. We're here to vent about how unlucky in love we are, how hard doing life solo can be, emotionally, financially, all the things. We'll cover the dumb things couple that people love to say to us, whether condescendingly or misguidedly. We're also here to lift each other up, to finally have a community feel seen and heard and understood in. I hope. At least that's my hope for this podcast. I grew up around a lot of people who, just about all of them, were in relationships. I was pretty much the only one. And even up to this day, I'm pretty much the only one who's constantly single. And I just wish that a podcast like this existed back when I was dating, whether it be in my late teenage years, all of my 20s, or even my early 30s. Like, I just wish that more content like this was out there so that I didn't feel so alone and so like the odd one out, the one who's, never able to like find the right person. Now let's get into the most misunderstood thing about being single that I really want to focus on in this particular episode. And two things can be true simultaneously. And that's definitely the case with being single. You can feel conflicting emotions about being single. In the case of being single, you can both enjoy your life as much as you can while you're single, while also still longing to be partnered up, to find your person, while also being frustrated and disappointed that you haven't found this person, while feeling behind in life. But there's nothing wrong with being single. And I know you being single, you know that. But I do want to just reiterate on that fact. There's nothing wrong with being single, just like there's nothing wrong with being single and still also wanting to find somebody. I know that I'm not being punished, although sometimes it does feel like I'm being punished. Like, why am I still single at 38? So I know I'm not actually being punished, but sometimes those thoughts do creep in and it's like, yeah, why? Why is this still my life situation when I know I deserve a life partner? I know I deserve to have kids and I want to have those things. And I don't know about you, but I'm friends with a lot of people who are in relationships. Whether they have kids or not, they found their person, they're married. And this duality is so difficult for a lot of them to understand about our single life. Especially for those of us who are in our 30s, who have been perpetually single, who have dealt with heartbreak so many times over and over and over again. Times, our friends who haven't dated in the last 2 decades, like they just don't know what dating is like now. A lot of people find their person while they're in school. They don't know what it's like to actually go on a dating app or try to meet people in your 30s while you're out and about with the very few friends that you still have left. A lot of people will tell us to enjoy being single because relationships are hard. And it's like, I'm tired of those cliches. It's like, yeah, I know relationships are hard. I've been in relationships. Being single is also hard. Having to do everything by yourself is extremely difficult. Not having that support system of somebody who also does things with you, that's extremely hard. So I just don't know many people who truly understand what it's like to be single, especially in your 30s or, even late 20s, because I think that those thoughts start to creep in your late 20s. And obviously, as you keep progressing and still not finding your person, then, they just keep getting worse sometimes. They don't understand what it's like to go through various milestones of your life and not have a person right there with you. And I truly do believe that nobody can really understand what somebody else goes through until they've been put into that position themselves. And so there's things I don't know about. There's things that I've never done. I, can't fully speak about, but I have dated a lot. I have been in serious relationships. I have been single for such long periods of my life that it's like, those are three things that I am very, very knowledgeable in. Those are things that I have done so much of and made so many mistakes in, which, have obviously helped me to grow. And I am honestly thankful for those mistakes now. As we go throughout the next couple of years, I'm super excited to be sharing my experience with you. But I do think that because the people around us who are in long-term relationships don't fully understand what it's like to be us, I do think it's very important for us to have a community of other single people. And I'm hoping this podcast can turn into that community, into a space where you guys feel seen. And I really hope that we can all talk to each other, basically, and figure out how to make this single era easier on us. I hope it's a space where we get to be honest about both the good and the bad aspects of being single and not pretend like being single is just this amazing era, which it can be. It can be amazing, but it also can be heartbreaking. And I don't want to keep pretending that we don't need anybody else, because we do. We need other people. If we didn't need other people, nobody would ever get married. Nobody would ever get into relationships. Like me, for example, I would love to be in a relationship. Well, technically, I'd love to just be married and have kids and do all the family stuff. Like, I want to be a parent. But that's clearly not happening for me right now. And I just think that my time is also wasted if I sit around and just cry about it. I definitely want to at least try to be some kind of a help to anybody else who's going through this. So especially if you're in your 20s, early 30s, obviously also my age or even older, sometimes we all learn different lessons at different times of our life. And some of us are a little late with those lessons. Some of us get there a little bit sooner, and either way is okay. But overall, as I was saying, it's like I'm not meeting my person. I'm not meeting men that have their stuff figured out. Like, I'm not meeting men who have healed their past trauma. And I'm not trying to talk shit about men, because I feel like we are all in this loneliness epidemic together. And I think we need to come up with some answers together on how to get out of it, honestly. But I just haven't been lucky enough to find my person yet. And that's okay. That's just my timeline. And I want to be hopeful that I will. But obviously, I don't know. And I don't know for you. I don't know if you're ever going to find your person. But while we're here, while we're single, we might as well make the best out of being single and try to be the best version of ourselves. Because I do also strongly believe that you cannot expect to be with somebody who's amazing if you're not amazing yourself. Like I'm looking for somebody who is intelligent, who's funny, who's creative, who has their shit together, who's done their healing work, who's been through therapy, who knows themselves very well, who has a good job, who's got hobbies. I don't want to be somebody's only outlet, but I also don't want somebody who, hangs out with their friends all the time and goes out drinking all the time. So I really want somebody who has done the work, because I've done the work and I know I deserve what I put on the table. And I know you deserve what you also put on the table. And I do believe there's a honeymoon period for being single. And just a honeymoon period for being in relationships, it varies in length for each one of us. For me, I know I can be happily single for about a year and a half. That's a year and a half, 2 years. So literally a honeymoon period. But so what I mean by that is we can be happy being single for a specific amount of time until we're kind of done with it, until we kind of see it. I don't want to say see it for what it is, but until it just doesn't hit as nice as it used to. So, for me, and I think you can probably relate, it's at the beginning, whether you're just relieved that you just broke up with somebody, or you're super sad that somebody broke up with you and you want to get back together with them. Usually I think there's a little period of that where we're trying to get back with somebody, or, we're crying about them all the time. But then we get into this whole, oh, I'm fine without them. I am totally fine. I'm enjoying being single. I love my free time. It's nice not to have to answer to anybody. It's nice to get to do whatever the hell I want to be doing. And then you if you're still young enough and you have a lot of friends, or people that actually are single with you, you might be going out. So you might be enjoying that time. For me, every time I'm done with a relationship, whether I break up with the person or they break up with me, I go into a very like reflective mood, and I love being reflective. I love self-awareness in myself and in other people. So I love to just look at what went wrong in the relationship, what I did wrong, what the other person did wrong. And I like to learn my lessons, and I enjoy that process so much. I enjoy getting to peel off the layers of me that I didn't even really fully know were there. And so that's why I do enjoy that honeymoon period. And then I'm like, okay, these are the things that I really need to work on. So let me work on them now while I'm single. And so then I work on them. And then again, that's my honeymoon period. Like I'm really so busy and focused on myself and working on myself and enjoying that so much. But then again, after a while, okay, this is kind of enough working on myself. And then I enjoy that. So then there's a period in that honeymoon period where I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor. And that's when I'm like, okay, like I'm kind of over this phase. I want to get into a relationship. And anything that we're talking about today, I think is kind of like a preview of some of the stuff that we'll cover more, some of the topics we'll cover more in future episodes. So we'll get into all of this more. And if you have any comments, suggestions, or any experiences yourself with any of this, please also feel free to send me any voice memos. Go on allaboutbeingsingle.com, and there's like a little turquoise button on there where you can just click on and then send me a voice memo. And I would absolutely love to hear from as many of you as possible. And this brings me to our next segment, which is the Never Again segment. This is where I'll share and reflect on a red flag or a mistake or a boundary I've claimed through my experience or other people's experiences. And quite often multiple ones that I didn't learn the first time. But it's basically stuff that I officially retired in my life. Anything that had, me acting some type of way that I would never want to act again. Could be a type of person I used to date. It could be a dating habit, whatever. The kind of things that we look back on after they're over and we're just like, God damn it, yeah, never again will I do this. So that's what the Never Again segment will be. So here's mine for this week. Never again will I grieve the loss of a man I didn't even like while dating him. And I've done that quite a lot. Like never again will I cry over a personality trait that was only potential, like things that I thought this person could be graded that they literally were never graded. It was just all in my head. I'll never spiral over a boy. Or men. That sounded bad. Definitely not dating boys. There's been so many times when like somebody broke up with me and I'm just like, I literally held onto the relationship, that shit-ass relationship for the life of me. So I should have broken up with them way sooner, but then they broke up with me and then I was super heartbroken over it for like months afterwards. Like I'm not doing that again. So basically I'm also always going to listen to my intuition because it's always right. This feels like a personal diary, honestly. Maybe it should be a diary entry. This episode, I did want to cover some major pros and cons of being single. So here's some pros, right? You get to know yourself so much more than you would without being in a relationship, right? So like you get to know yourself for real. It's the best position to put yourself in to understand your needs, your desires, your wants, your patterns, your values, like anything that really makes you you, that you love, and anything that makes you that you know that you probably need to change in order to live a better life. You also get to not be settling, right? So you get to choose yourself over the wrong person. I think that's so important. Like I think there's almost like a hierarchy, right? So there's being in a healthy, good relationship. That's obviously first. Then right underneath that is being single and making the most out of the singleness. So really enjoying your life, but also working on the things that you know are in your way of you living your best life. And then under that is being single and unhappy. Honestly, I think that's quite a few steps down from that. Because when you're single and just like hating it, you're really just doing yourself a disservice. But then underneath that is being in a toxic relationship, because that's just not good for your mental health. And then underneath that is like all the extra really bad abusive relationships. And we definitely don't want to get into either one of those. You also have more energy for yourself because you expend so much energy on other people when you're in a relationship, on your partner. You get to focus on friendships more. You can develop those friendships more. You can focus on your hobbies more. You can basically build your empire, right? So like if you're trying to start a business or trying to get promoted at work, you can get there because you have all that extra time and energy to spend on your business side of things. And you do have freedom, which is nice. You choose how you get to spend your time. You don't have somebody else telling you cannot move out of the country or go on a month-long trip. Really just living for yourself. So you do get to make any choice that you want to make, whether it's getting a pet, whether it's buying a house. All those choices are yours, and that freedom can be super, super nice. And then some major cons though too, right, that go along with it. So loneliness, I think, and especially the older you get or the more perpetually single you are, the more loneliness does creep in. So like while it is nice that you get to spend a lot of time with your friends, a lot of your friends do put a partner first, and as they should. I think that's just kind of the way of the world. Although some friends do treat you like a second-class citizen, and we'll talk about that too. And I have definitely learned to not really focus on those friends anymore. But yeah, loneliness can creep in, and it can creep in quite often, especially if you want to have kids and you're getting older and, the dating world seems bleak. Like all of that does have an effect on your mental health, and having to do most things solo, especially the older you get, the more your friends are doing things with a partner or their families. It really can get pretty lonely. And you don't have that built-in support network, right? So like it's harder to keep going with even everyday things. It's nice to have a partner who can push you to doing things that you want to do. It's nice to have that support with, So going to the gym, it's nice to have somebody pushing you. They might be working out. You might also work out. So it's that support that some people take for granted, honestly. You can be the odd one out, right? So like you might have to be going places by yourself. You might have to go to movies by yourself. You might have to go to some parties by yourself. And again, that does also get lonely. Dating does also expend a lot of energy, or we expend a lot of energy on dating, and people who aren't dating, they don't realize how difficult it is to actually date and how much heartbreak you go through by just going on tons of dates and never getting a second, or never wanting a second, or getting in through month 3 thinking this is your person and them dumping you, which is very common, or you realizing, hey, I don't know if I like this person, and you having to dump them because it sucks also having to dump people. I mean, it's a lot of energy that most people don't realize you have to expend. So what I try to do with the podcast cover is I really wanted to kind of emulate the Statue of Liberty. I think that it stands for a lot of the things that I want this podcast to stand for. The torch lighting the way, the hope and the direction that, I think we can try to explore that single life intentionally, that we can try to, still hope to meet our people. Because I think most of us single people are hoping to at some point meet somebody. Sometimes we go through a period of being single where we're just like, we've been through a lot of bad trauma in relationships, and then we're like, okay, I don't want to date. I never want to date. And usually that subsides, and usually that changes once you're kind of out of that situation for a while. The other part is also, that freedom from dependency on other people, from codependency, from people pleasing. I really want to focus on those bad relationships for us, and freedom from toxic relationships, from toxic situationships. I think the Statue of Liberty is also very welcoming. So I think, it's got a little bit of welcoming us, turning inward and welcoming yourself is really what I want to focus on. As far as some of my message, we really need to focus on the things that we need, the things that we want out of this life, not just focus on what this person that I might be in a relationship with, what they want. Like, what is it that I really want? I think it's also for the lost and the hopeful. And I think sometimes being single, you feel lost. You feel confused as to, hey, why am I still the only person that's single? Like, why is everybody else getting to meet their people, but here's me still single after all these years? Or no matter what I do, because sometimes we can do everything right and we still might not meet the right person, or we still might end up being single. Like nothing's guaranteed in life and it sucks, but I still also do have that hope for us, right? Like, so yeah, we might be lost, we might be feeling lost, but I also still want us to hold on to that beacon of hope. And you never know. You just never know what's going to happen in life. I am an immigrant, so I was born in Poland. I came here when I was 12. So I think that the Statue of Liberty for me also signifies opportunity. And I think that, again, for us singles, I really want us to get into the mindset of trying to get more opportunity of meeting people, whether it be other single people to be friends with, or whether it be people we might potentially be interested in dating. It's also that whole hope of having a better life. And I really want us single people to not think of this chapter of our lives as just something to pass by while we're here, whether we want to be single or not. We might as well enjoy that time. We might as well make the most of it. And we might as well work on ourselves, not to the extent where it's like all you're focusing on is working on yourself, because you also need to have some joy in your life. Do what we can to really maximize the single time that we've been given to actually unlearn some bad things and learn some good behaviors and boundaries, and just really become the version of ourselves that we are so proud of, that whether or not we find somebody to do life with, that we still are confident in who we are as people. And that whole give me your tired, man, so many of us single people are just so fucking tired. We're so tired of like trying to find the right person. I'm 38, so I've been looking for so long and I've dated so many people, and it just gets to be so exhausting going on new dates, where you're expending so much energy. You just get so tired of doing it and of trying to find this person and of feeling like a failure sometimes because you're just not meeting people that you're interested in. So I really also want to focus on discussing all of that. And hopefully we can both laugh at the mistakes that I've made, and hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. And overall, I just want to welcome you to this podcast, and I'm very happy that you're listening. But so that was the gist of what I was trying to do for like my picture for the podcast cover. What ended up happening is my podcast cover looks like I'm flying in. Some might say it looks like I'm about to riot. I don't know, whatever, whatever you guys want to think. You can do everything right and still have it not work out. And that's how I feel about my podcast cover. Not the look I was going for. It's supposed to look more of like the Statue of Liberty, holding my microphone, and that fire. And it literally definitely does not look like it. But that's okay. It's staying. I like it. I did have some single friends send me some of their voice memos talking about their experiences. So let's hear them now.
Becoming single made me realize how much I poured into my partner while draining myself. Having the time to just focus on myself has been so eye-opening in so many ways. Realizing that I can make myself happy and do things for me is something new to me, since I've basically been pouring into a partner for over 2 decades.
Hello, my name is Israel from Chicago, and I just want to say probably one of the hardest things about being single, it's the social events and mostly the holidays when everybody gets together and, everybody's buying gifts for everybody. So, that creates a sense of loneliness and, yeah, that has been the hardest part for me so far.
For any of you who do want to call anything in, you don't have to do a voice memo. You can either email me at allaboutbeingsingle@gmail.com, or you can go on the website allaboutbeingsingle.com, and that's where you can leave a voice memo. Okay, whatever's easy for you. If you feel like giving me your name and or like, what city you live in or general location, you can also do that, but you don't have to. You can always stay anonymous, whatever you feel most comfortable with. And that's the thing, so many of us are going through that same experience of being single and, feeling excluded. Also, there's, the positive things about being single. Some of us are finally learning what it's like to be on our own, what it's like to take care of us first and our own needs, and knowing what we actually want and desire out of this life. And it feels good. It's always a balance. Next thing I want to introduce is something we'll be doing every episode as well. So it's called Note to Self. So this is your moment to reflect and to be honest with yourself. And don't worry, it won't take long, because I hate when people ask me to do stuff that is like a whole journal entry. But basically, just grab your notes app, grab your phone, do a voice memo. You can write it down in an actual journal or whatever's by you. And if you're driving, please don't do any of those things. Maybe just think to yourself about the answer. And there's my cat scratching one of my chairs. But yeah, however you want to do this, right? So just take a minute and answer this note to self question. Afterwards, after we're done doing this, I believe we all should do a couple of things every day. One of them is dancing, and another one of them is laughing. And I'm hoping that you guys have at least laughed today. And if you haven't danced yet, we will get a chance, because I am going to do a little break where I dance for about a minute. That gives you about a minute to either think about this note to self. I will say writing it down is usually better, because then you're kind of getting it out of your head. But however you want to do it, or if you want to dance with me when we do this 1 minute dance break, that also is great. Also, again, if you're driving, please don't do that. I'm talking to those of you who are either walking as you're listening to this podcast, or maybe you're cleaning your house, maybe you're organizing some stuff, maybe you're just laying on the couch. I know that was a very long-winded way of saying this is our note to self today. How is being single right now serving you? So just answer that question. How is being single right now serving you in this time of your life? So think of maybe one aspect. You might be surprised with kind of what comes up. Okay, now going back to the question from the very beginning of the episode, can you really know yourself without being single for at least an extended amount of time in your adulthood? And the answer to that, to me, is a no. Sure. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. And I think there's some outliers. There are some people who truly found out who they are while being in a long-term relationship. However, for most people, when they're in a relationship, they're just so focused on living out that dynamic. They expend so much energy on that relationship. They're constantly playing a role in who they are in that relationship alongside that other person, or maybe even people, right? If people have kids. So hate it or love it, being single does give us that opportunity to actually learn more about ourselves, our own needs, to really use the energy that otherwise would have been spent, on going out on dates with people, on, being with a partner, on taking care of a family. You can actually spend that time and be a little bit more introspective as to who it is that you are. And that's such a huge positive. Women especially spend so much more time being conditioned to take care of a household and really focus on their boyfriends, their husbands, their, whoever, that their partners. So they really, almost their self-worth is kind of linked to their partners. So I think when they are in a relationship, they put themselves second. So it is such a good time to have that opportunity to really get to know who you are while being single without somebody else, and being able to put yourself first And once you do it, you'll never get into a toxic relationship again. Once you realize that you are your own priority, you'll date like a man, which is also a positive thing. And again, for the men listening to this, you probably agree with me that everybody should be looking out for themselves, for number one. And yes, of course, you can do a little bit of some kind of healing while you're in a relationship. I'm not saying you can't, but when the universe really forces you to be alone with your own thoughts and to be truly single is when you can truly focus solely on your own needs, ditch societies and your friends and whoever's programming and expectations, and you get to self-reflect without that companionship and emotional support. And that's honestly the hardest because, again, we don't have that support when we're single, but also that is, in a sense, the best part about it, because that's when you're forced to really look at yourself and how you've been standing in your own way, or look at yourself and realize how wonderful you are and all the great qualities about you that maybe your past partners didn't really appreciate enough. And sometimes you don't get to see that when you're in that toxic relationship, when somebody's not appreciating you. But once you're out of that dynamic is when you're able to be like, oh my God, I cannot believe this person didn't actually see me for who I was. And so, yeah, being forced to be single sometimes allows us to see those things. And it's so rewarding once you see it too. Once you're out of that fog, really, and you work on yourself and you truly realize what you do deserve and what peace actually can be, and, look at those relationships when either you're forced to be single because somebody breaks up with you, or when you decide it's enough. But then afterwards is really when you're able to be out of that fog and really see that relationship for what it was. And as much as it sucks at the time, a few of the people who did break up with me basically forced me to see myself better. And I'm so thankful that that's happened, because I, A, would never settle for people like them ever again. B, I now know that I have deserved the best even before, because I was such a great person. And sure, I've made mistakes. Obviously, we'll talk about those too. But it's just nice to know that I can do better. And now I truly believe that I actually can do better, versus being in those relationships. It's like I could tell I could do better in a sense, but also I was too nervous and too freaked out over an unknown future, and having to be single yet again for me to have been clear in my mind and my thoughts about just breaking up with those people and not fully realizing how much better life will be once those ties are severed. All right, the no leg to stand on segment. This segment is my personal favorite. It's your space to vent and finally feel heard, okay? So we'll talk hypocritical comments from the marrieds, unhelpful dating advice, subtle shame that is often thrown our way, and then just any other bullshit singles have to hear way too often. And this is also the corner where, you get to also talk about your frustrations, your disappointments, anything that's in your era of this life that you really want to share with us. So if you've ever been given advice that makes no sense, or any comments that have no leg to stand on about the single life and our dating, this is your space to let it all out. Okay, here's my vent for today. When someone tells me to enjoy being single when they themselves have not been single in decades or even years. Honestly, dating scene has changed. I'm getting older. Obviously, I am a woman who wants to have kids. So while I'd like to believe this isn't true, A, my biological clock is ticking and I can tell. And yeah, I don't have 20 more years, most likely, to have kids. So, and again, I don't want to be single forever. And it's the advice that's given to us by people who have no idea what it's like to be single, who don't even go grocery shopping by themselves. Grocery shopping. Well, I'm out here doing everything by myself. Most of the time, my friends don't even want to hang out anymore because we're older now. So it's I have to do everything by myself. I have to take myself out to dinners. I have to pay the whole mortgage. I have to cut the grass. I have to clean the whole house. I have to cook everything. I have to push myself to go out to the gym. All these things that, again, I don't have that support system. So it's very hard when you're constantly being told to enjoy that single life when you constantly also wish you had somebody there to help you through it. If you have anything you do want to voice, any other comments that the marrieds say to you, and I mean anybody who honestly says stupid things to us single people, please reach out. Go to allaboutbeingsingle.com and you'll be able to just leave me a voice memo or email me at allaboutbeingsingle@gmail.com. Okay, it's time for a weekly glow up. This is when we discuss small steps that make a big impact in the quality of our solo life. Since we don't have a support system built in, it's especially important for us to keep taking small little steps to make our lives better and easier. So here we will talk one thing you can start doing each week to evolve and elevate and glow a little. So for this week, what I highly recommend is at the very start of each day, take a very, very short walk. I absolutely love walking. It's like my answer to most things because it actually does help with a lot of problems, or at least thinking about the problems or forgetting about the problems for a little bit. Depends on what you're really looking for at the time. But anyhow, just walk, get up, grab a bottle of water. You don't even have to, brush your teeth. You can just wash your face. It's a very simple, cheap, obviously activity. All you need, a bottle of water, put on some clothes, go walk. Just go walk for 10 minutes, 15, 20, whatever you're able to do, even if it's 5 minutes at first. Just to literally take that step. I promise you it will feel a lot better than what a lot of people do. I'm guilty of this too some days, where I will just go on my phone and then I don't go take my walk. And then my whole day is shut. Like I don't feel like myself. I'm not as productive. I don't feel as good. So I do highly recommend just take a 5, 10, 15 20-minute walk. It really doesn't have to be anything super long, but honestly, my first glass of water is the glass of water that I drink while I'm out on my walk. And then I come back home and I'm already I've already been productive. B, I've already gotten some exercise. C, I've usually gotten some kind of sunlight at the time that I wake up. D, it just sets me up. It just makes me feel so much better. I promise you, it'll make your day start off on the right foot, whichever foot you start walking with. Okay, one of the things we discussed on today's episode is we can do everything right and still lose. And that's a sad reality. We can do all the work on ourselves and be great people and still not meet our person. So I'm not here to tell you that you will for sure meet your person. And I'm not here to tell you that single life is easy. I am here to tell you, though, that you give yourself the best chance to live the best life, single or not, if you take this time of singleness and make the most of it and put yourself first and enjoy it as much as you can while also working on improving yourself. At least you'll feel better because you'll be working on the most important relationship of all. Yes, the one that you have with yourself. And as cliche as that is, it is also very true. People will come and go in your life, but we always are here to stay. And some of us might not be lucky in love, at least not for now. And people do come and go, but we are always here to stay. So even if you hate being single, as I sometimes do, know it is okay to be single. And there are more of us out here than you think. And always remember, even if we're late, we're right on time. Our next episode will be talking about various life lessons I've learned about myself and the world, honestly, through all the years where I was just single, not even dating. If you would like to, feel free to send me a lesson that you've learned while being single by going to my website or emailing me. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I want you to know that this is your space, your era, and your community. There's more of us out here than you think. And I will talk to you next Tuesday.